Hey, it's Raven Tactical here. Doing a little bit of a review of what I use for processing and cutting wood. I'm just going to kind of go over the tools I use. Maybe we'll have some video of cutting wood. I'm not sure if that's really that key to anything here. Of course, things I usually have to pack for it. I like these 2.5 gallon containers because it's super simple. A lot of the small packs for your premix work with the 2.5, and then you're not guessing. You're putting the full gas in, you're putting the full premix in. You're not playing around. So I mean, for me, this is pretty simple and easy. I use STILH chainsaws. So the newer one uses the new platinum, kind of a synthetic style lubricant for bar oil. A little bit more money than the cheaper stuff, and it works great. And you know, you're protecting your saw and keeping it going. So just your bar oil. Gloves, obviously you're going to need gloves. Protect your hands at all costs. Even in a bug out bag situation or a get home bag, you're going to want gloves. You're going to be carrying wood. You don't want to cut your hands. You don't want to get an infection. There's you know, poisonous plants that perhaps you can protect your hands from. Let's see, what else do I got? Water. I usually carry water, at least a gallon with me. Me and the dog like to come out cutting, so carry water for your puppy and carry water for your dog, carry water for yourself. It's pretty important. Typically wear a hat. You could be keeping the sun off your head. Hair is really short, so I burn pretty easily. Hammer. I use this this is a 2.5 pound maul, and the maul goes with things like when you use like a wedge. And if you're not familiar with a wedge, it can be used for felling trees, and it can be used if you're cutting a down tree. It makes the biggest difference between a pinch saw and an unpinch saw, and it helps kind of guide which way that tree is going to fall to. The wedge is really important. I do notice that the cheaper wedges don't have like this solid buffer piece, the solid piece of metal here. So a lot of the cheaper wedges will just have this hard plastic, and they do tend to mar up pretty quickly. So spend a little bit of extra money and get the one with a little bit of a metal edge. Hearing protection. Fortunately, I didn't realize when I set it down that it said too close to the chainsaw end exhaust, and it melted a little bit of the edge. But hearing protection is important. The chainsaws are spinning like 15,000 plus RPMs. They're really, really loud, and you don't want to go deaf. I think these were under 15 bucks, and they're nice and quiet. They make ones you can have a radio inside. So I took the spare chain out already, but there's a spare chain for each of the saws. It's a good idea to have. I already went through, because the original chain that came with mine was more of a safety chain. So I've had this saw for over a year and been cutting consistently. That chain wore out. So what I do is I usually keep an extra set of chains with me. So the smaller one's got a backup, and the big one had a backup, and I wound up using it and carry it with you in the field, because it sucks to get all the way out here carting, and then all of a sudden you have to stop and then go back to the garage to go get all your tools. This, for anyone that's wondering, this is your premix I was telling you about. So it fits in the 2.5 gallon. The new STILH chainsaws use more of this premium blend stuff. It's more of, I believe, a synthetic style. I recommend it. The 6-packs aren't that much. I think, you know, 2.5 gallons last you, I mean, at least I've been doing this for a couple days this year alone, just consistently cutting for about 4 hours a day, and I've maybe gone through 2 gallons of gas in 4 days, if that. If you're gonna go through small shrubbery, or they're small like sticks and stuff, Cold Steel makes these things. It's a little ridiculous. Maybe it's a little overkill. It's a smaller, I shouldn't say smaller, it's a massive machete. But if you're going to go through some of the smaller stuff and you want to break up some of the branches without getting your saw tangled up, this machete kind of works in a great way. Real heavy, I want to say real heavy, but it's dense enough that it breaks through the smaller stuff, makes your life a little bit easier. I carry extra rope. Obviously this hasn't been used, but if you were felling a tree, you can tie it and use it to a winch, or you can use it to kind of help guide a stubborn tree that's maybe a little bit more difficult. Sometimes the trees kind of have an S growth to them. You don't know which way they want to fall. So this kind of helps. Plus you can use it for dragging out stuff too as well. If you have a heavier fallen tree that you want to get out and work on it in the middle of a area versus where maybe it's too tight of some spaces. Now the two chainsaws that I use, this one's a STILH 26. It's an older model. It's got a 16-inch bar on it and a 16-inch chain. It's a little bit loose because this is the one that started to die. I haven't had a chance to change it out yet. I'm going to be replacing this chain. It's worn out. It's a well-used saw, but STILH products tend to be some of the longest lasting stuff I've seen. I had an opportunity to go to a STILH dealer, and like something like this, used, refurbished used, is going for between $200 and $300 still. So I mean, you're talking about legacy items that last. Buy something nice with chainsaws. Try to get STILH products. I mean, not that they're sponsoring me at all, but STILH's really a quality company. This one's useful for kind of doing a lot of the trimming up on a tree that fell, smaller stuff, or in the case where you pinched your saw, it's good to have a backup saw, and this is what this is for, to free your other saw. You know, it happens more than you want to admit. So I'll grab this before the next saw. So there's a company called Logox, and I'll kind of pin them out a little bit. Logox, basically it's a timber, whatever you want to call it, a timber follower or a timber kind of wedge material. It works really well. It does a couple things in one. In this setup, you can use it as a timber kind of spike to roll the log and prop it up. So when the log sits like this, I'll get a picture or a video of it, you're not digging your blade into the dirt as much. It also helps kind of freeing stuff up. Some of the other things is you can take this T-post off, and you can use this to pick up logs and put them onto your truck. A gentleman made this so that he could help save his back. He was a little bit older. I'm using this primarily just to roll a lot of the heavier stuff that fell, so that I can actually get it to the point where I can cut it with the saw without digging the saw into the dirt too much, and pinching the blade as well. I really like it. I think it'd be cool to get maybe a second one or a lot bigger one for some of the bigger stuff that I've been finding. Finally, the chainsaw that I've been using a lot is the STILH 391. I bought it last year after my 34 AV. The motor or cylinder died. This comes with, I bought it with a 20-inch bar. You can get them with a 24 or 25-inch bar. It is in the largest one in the farm service series. So the next step up, if you want to go, would be, they make bigger ones, but you get kind of more into the professional grade. This one's not the professional grade. The professional grades all have like a magnesium chassis, which, believe me, I've picked them up. It makes a huge difference between weight. This is heavy, but what this thing does is it's got the solid biggest engine with the most amount of fuel capacity in this price range, and it just goes. It chews through things like no other. I'll post a link with the specs on it, but this was probably what I would say is get the biggest saw that you can comfortably hold, and get the biggest saw that you can comfortably manage, because this does get tiring after a while, but it's not too bad. It's not like an 880 or anything like that. Things that I would recommend, since this is your main saw, is to get an extra bar, extra chains, extra clutch. You're going to be using it, it's going to be worn out, and you're going to be having a good time with it. Always use non-ethanol gas with a lot of these things. Small engines really don't like ethanol gas. I know they're starting to kind of design the engines around having some ethanol in them, but the less you can do with that, the less you're going to have problems with your motors. So with that, that's pretty much what I carry. Other than this is probably the most important thing is medical. So I carry an IFAC with me. So it's an individual first aid kit for people that don't know. Some of the things that are in here are tourniquet. There's bandages. There's a bunch of other things too, like Israeli bandages and stuff like that. So if you did cut yourself, it's a pressure dressing. And this is basically a tourniquet accidents do happen. As much as you don't want it to happen, you really should have it. And having this on you is important. That's what the straps are for. You could rig it to your Molly chest rig, or you could just rig it to your belt in that sense. I think it's important. For those that, you know, you're taking a risk without it. I do have chaps. If I was going to do a little bit more things, I'd wear chaps for felling a tree. And that's about it. Oh, well, safety glasses too, sorry. These Oakleys are rated for, basically the Army rates them for impact, and they're shatter resistant. They supposedly can take up to a 22 round to them. I don't know if that's entirely true, but they're basically authorized by the military as safety glasses. So that's why I like wearing them. That's all I really have. I mean, I bring the dog with me, so the dog gets a chance to come out and have a good time. So with that, it's Raven Tactical out. Please like, share, and subscribe. I know we've been seeing a lot of increase in subscribers, which I really appreciate. Excuse me, I'm still working on kind of what to do for a giveaway for the 600. I'm kind of at a loss. I mean, maybe we should just do it at 750, and as we work our way towards 1,000. I really appreciate it. I mean, I know the content sometimes it's mostly driving in a car, and it's mostly my thoughts. That's tend to be when I have the most free time, so that's kind of where that comes from. Hopefully this video helps out with kind of showing you some of the stuff that you can expect to use if you're going to come out and do some chainsawing and collecting wood. Again, wood heat is, to my opinion, wood heat is one of the best heats you can do for indoor wood stoves. It radiates, and it's warm, and it's dry. And trust me, when your house is 75, 80 degrees inside, and you're complaining that you have to open a window, it's so much better than trying to heat it with propane and all this, and you're burning through propane, or you're burning through gas and all these other things too. The heat is really, really nice and comforting, especially if you're in a really cold environment and you're coming wet. It does a lot of things, plus you can cook on it. So wood is key to survival. With that, I'm signing out.